Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to RC Video Reviews. You know, this is a video that I've known I've needed to do for quite a long time, and I thought about doing a production version of this and then thought, you know, I think a live session will be better because I know how to do widgets, and even though I'll give you some examples to work with, I thought maybe by doing live we could make it a little more interactive and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions as we go. And that's one of the really cool things about this OpenTx Class format is that it doesn't just have to be what John wants to talk about. It can be what you guys would like to talk about as well. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go through a couple of quick little widget options, and I'm gonna show you some of the main questions I get, because I do get a lot of questions on widgets. So I'll show you a couple of answers to those questions, and then after that, I figured we could spend a little time allowing you guys to ping me and ask questions, and we can do some demonstrations right on the radio as we look at things. And as you can see, I already have a couple of things already set up that are way outside the normal framework that I have for widgets. And by using this screen, I have a very simplified interface, but it's very clean and yet very informative. So we'll talk about this a little bit too. But before we do, I do have some important information I need to share about widgets. So there's been some developments as they work on version 2.4 of OpenTx. I did some reading in the forums, in the developer forums, and I do have some notes I need to share with you about widgets that are important. And let me see, I think I accidentally hid my chat window, so I want to move that back up to make sure you guys can still see that. Let me just make a little adjustment here. There we go. And sorry about that. I added this little Blackboard image right at the end. And when I did that, I didn't set my chat correctly. So there you go. I think the chat's all there so you guys can see. Okay. So anyway, back to the story at hand, a few important notes about widgets. This is going to interfere with my text. Sorry guys, I'm making on the fly adjustments. Okay. Back to the topic. A few important notes about widgets. Yeah, that's not going to work. The chat has to be moved. Widgets will be removed in 2.4 in favor of predefined screens. So that's big. That's kind of shocking news because widgets I thought were one of the really cool features of this radio. And the idea that they're going to be going away to me is a little disturbing. I'm kind of sad about that because I use these all the time. I mean, I'm constantly using widgets. So I was a little disturbed to hear that they're going to be going away in 2.4 in favor of predefined screens. But I did the reading and found out what the deal is. And they said the main issue, sorry guys, I just have to hide the chat. The main issue is that there's no good way to implement widgets on the touch screen with such a small screen because they have to register finger presses, and these widget little buttons they have get very small. And right now the coding effort outweighs the benefit. They feel like in order to implement widgets correctly with the touchscreen, that they're going to wind up spending too much time in the development process, and the coding effort far outweighs the benefit. And then one other kind of bummer about the whole deal is that in order to make the touchscreen work correctly across a wide variety of platforms, they have to install microcode during the firmware upgrade process. There's going to be a microcode installation for the touchscreen. And because of that, you won't be able to go back down to 2.3, because if you do go down to 2.3, you will permanently disable the touchscreen feature on the radio. So I just wanted to make sure we covered that, because as we get into the discussion about widgets, I wanted you guys to understand going forward, because a lot of people are looking forward to this 2.4 upgrade in order to get the touchscreen functionality, that widgets aren't going to be a thing. So anyway, let me just finish this off by saying happy April Fool's Day. if you're in the US, it's April Fool's Day. And from Sydney, how are you, Paul? Glad you can make it. William Cox. Martin, glad you're joining us. That's great. Romulo Vet, good afternoon. Hans, hi. Can anyone get STX7 drone? That one's a little off topic for this chat, Hans, so I don't really know the answer to that, but maybe you can pop in Discord and we might be able to give you some help there. Rock, I'm not even going to try that last name, but I'm going to stick with Rock. Hello. And WRDBRMPFD, great. that name's hard to spell. or say out loud or pronounce P button. So I hope you guys had a little fun with the April Fool's Day thing. I know, you know, going into that, I thought, man, if I were to tell people there weren't going to be widgets, they might just freak out a little bit. Yeah, Bill, it's April Fool's Day, buddy. Yeah, there are widgets. That was an April Fool's joke. Sorry, I had to mess around. You know, it's my nature. When we're in the military, you're always messing around with people. Okay, well, hey, let's get to the topic. So we're here to talk about widgets, and I want to spend a little time kind of working through widgets and give you ideas on the power that widgets have. So in the very first place, what you see on my screen is a very stripped down screen. This is kind of outside the norm for the way I run my screens. And what I was doing this because I wanted to set up a really nice demonstration video on how to add the receiver, or sorry, not the receiver, but the VX bat voltage on that last OpenTx snippet that I did. And that's what you see here. So I've got my receiver plugged in, and you can see that I've got voltage. That's a widget. So that's one of the widgets. And then also notice that I have the word battery and flight. Those are widgets as well. And I did that by, yeah, you rascal. I did that by using widgets and then defining my own text. And then you can see I've got a flight timer, and I call that flight. And I've got a nice little image, and I've got a little background. And I've been kind of fooling around with this a little bit too. So what I want to do is just zoom in a little bit, because the main moral of the story today is the widget. It's not the radio itself. I just want to give you guys a real close-up look at the widget and the buttons that I press to manipulate this. So with that said, the first thing we're going to do is I want to show you how to get to the widget screen, just in case you're not familiar with that. Let me back up just a little bit. I want you guys to be able to see the button presses. That's key. Okay, so this is the main screen. And the first thing we'll do is I'll show you how to toggle between widget screens. So you're saying the video is not focused, Will? Does that look okay? It looks okay. It looks okay to me. Let me I don't know. It looks so in my preview. It looks okay. I mean, I can't. I hope that's okay. It looks okay. All right. Yeah, it looks. From what I can see, it looks fine. I can't see any problems with the video. It looks okay. Okay. All right, guys. So the first thing that we'll talk about is navigating widget screens. Okay. So one of the very cool tricks in OpenTx is that you have the ability to set up multiple widget screens. You don't have to have just one. And I'll show you an example of how you can put that to good use. So in this case, this would be my main widget screen. This might be one that I would use while I'm just out flying around having a good time. And the next screen, but these page buttons let you navigate between or amongst widget screens. Okay, so you can hit page right and watch what happens when I hit page right. You see how I switched over to another, this is a widget, and this is a very complicated widget, but it's a widget, and it's the iNav Lua script. And then if I hit page right again, it brings me right back. So in this case, I just have two widget screens setups. And I'll show you how to add and remove screens. That's very easy to do. I'll show you how to do that. But I wanted to point out that on the main screen, you can navigate between screens that contain widgets by pressing page right or page left. You can also, because I only have two, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening. But if you have, say, 5, you can go page right to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, and then you can press page left to go back to 4, to 3, to 2, and to 1. Arthur Hubner, hello from Germany. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you, is that you can navigate your screens if you didn't know that by pressing these page buttons. Now, if you have a jumper radio, the way you do that is you press page to go right, and then you long press page to go left. And by the way, if you didn't notice that, that should work on the TX16S as well. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is to get into the widget configuration. It's this button right here, the bottom button. You press that, and that brings you up to this screen. And this, I get that this can look a little intimidating. And I think if you're not used to fooling around with software, you might look at this and say, I don't know what's happening there. But we're going to walk through it. So let me get a pointer. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about are the screens up top. So there are icons up on this top row that kind of inform you as to what's going on. So the first icon, and you get there by pressing page left, is the user interface. So if you haven't been in here before, this is where you can select themes. The radio comes with some default installed themes, and in the 2.3.10, I believe they added some of these extra fields for color. but you can change your background color. If you don't have a wallpaper and you just want a basic background, which is not a terrible idea, by the way. Some of these wallpapers can get very, very busy. So if you don't want to do that, you can just set your background color here. You can set main color, text color, your main bar color. What these main bar and secondary bar colors are referring to, by the way, if you don't know, is you press model, they're referring to these two. So they're referring to these two bars, the red and blue. Okay, that's what they're referring to. So you can set your main bar color. In my case, I like red and blue because they're very contrasty and easy to see the difference. And then there's also, notice there's an option down here called top bar and setup. So I'm going to scroll down there first and show you what that means. So the top bar, when you see this top bar, this is a reference to this bar up here. So if you look at the widget screen that I have set up right now, I have no top bar. There is no top bar, it's off, which is one of the really cool things you can do in OpenTx is you have that flexibility to decide, you know, do you want to have a top bar or not? So if you do want to have a top bar, you go into the setup screen. Let me choose a different one that has a top bar added. So I have to add the top bar in order to do the setup screen. So let's see, top bar. Okay, that's not working well. Hold on, I have to make another change. Let me just add the top bar into my main screen. Apparently it wants to see that. Okay. So all I'm doing is putting a check there. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But let's go now. Now I should be able to go into the top bar setup and see what I need to see. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So this is the top bar. Okay. And in the top bar, notice that there are blocks. There's blocks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have a dashed line going around them. In these blocks, you can also add widgets. Okay. So now on this side, that's not configurable. These are all system icons. So you've got your time and date, your radio quality, your volume, the battery. And if you hit the record button, if you do flight logging, you see that little blinking dot, that's my SD log recording. That's why that's blinking. It's recording logs. Okay, so this side is kind of like your Windows taskbar down at the bottom. You don't have, but the difference is you have no control here. You can't go in here and change things. That's all factory. You can't change that. As of now, you can't. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at now, the big one I want to show you guys is the battery, because I get the battery question all the time. And the reason that we get that question all the time is because it is confusing. When I first got the radio, it took me a little while to figure it out. So to get to the battery, and this battery, by the way, notice there's two different voltages here. This RX bat, that's a telemetry sensor. That's coming from the airplane. This battery voltage, it says 8.1, that's coming from inside the radio. This is the transmitter battery. So there are two different voltages here. You can move them around. If you want to put the transmitter down here, you can. If you want to put your flight battery up there, you can. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want. They're just widgets, okay? So I want to show you how to add the Tx Battery Widget. We're going to do that. Now, another point when it comes to navigation, I want you to pay attention to is a solid line. Do you see this? See how this box over here on the left is a solid line? This is kind of tricky and it's kind of hard to see, but this is a solid line and you navigate that solid line by using your scroll wheel. So notice this box right here is dashed. I'm going to move my scroll wheel one spot and now look at this one's solid. You see that? And this one is now dashed. So if I go left, this one's solid and this one's dashed. So that's how you decide which box you're going to operate in. Use the jog dial. The line highlights the dashes and makes it solid all the way around. That's the box you're operating in. Okay. So now we've got the box that we want to use selected. Just press the jog dial once and you'll be brought with options on what widget you want to put in there. And the aileron gauge, I'm not sure. Yeah, it does work. You see how if I move the aileron, that's a monitor showing the aileron movement. So, you know, if you want to use that, you can. If you want to use the battery though, let's go do that one. You can also put, oh look, you can put your model picture in there if you want. So a lot of options here. But I want to show you guys the battery. So there it is. Here's why it's confusing, because that's how you get to the battery. Now, why they chose rudder value as the initial statement on this widget, I'll never really understand that. But when you see, the idea is you're looking for this one called value. That's the key phrase here, is value. They default to rudder for some reason. So when you see value, you just press the jog dial. And then for source, this is where you choose what thing you want to show. So we'll just scroll over and we should find Tx Battery, or I think it's just called BAT. Just called BAT. We'll just scroll and find BATT. Oh, did I pass it? There it is. It's right there, BAT. So we'll select that, and then you can change the color if you want to. So in my case right now, this is looking pretty white. Not a bad idea on a red background, so I'm going to leave that. And then you can also apply the shadow by putting a check in that box. And when you do that, it's going to put a little drop shadow on the text up top. Okay, so we'll hit escape. We'll hit escape, and there you go. There's BAT, and you notice that follows the same thing over here. Unfortunately, you can't change the label, so you can't say TX BAT. That would have been nice. That would have been more intuitive, right? So that's unfortunate, but there we go. There is our BAT for the transmitter. Okay, this is the transmitter battery, not the flight battery. All right, that's like the straight up #1 widget question that I get is how the heck do you put the transmitter battery? I had one guy just the other day say, I've been working on this for hours, I can't figure it out. And you know, it's not intuitive. That's the problem. Okay, so there you go. That's the top bar setup. And keep in mind, when you go into that top bar setup, there you can change all of these. You can change all 4 of these boxes, and that's kind of what they're getting at with top bar setup. Now, let's say you decide you don't want something there, you want to get rid of it. On the right-hand side, let's get rid of this battery meter. All you have to do is press this, long press the jog dial. Whoops, sorry, I let go. All you got to do is long press the jog dial and hit remove widget. All right, and there you go, that one's gone. And then let's say for argument's sake that you wanted to change something about the widget, you can long press on a widget and select widget settings. And then when you've done that, you can say, well, I really don't like that shadow. So we'll get rid of the shadow. There you go, and now the shadow's gone. And then if you want to, you know, again, you can make other changes in here. You can change the widget by going in and saying, I would like this to be some other color besides red. I'd like it to be cyan. So you take all the red out. And when we hit escape, you can see that that is now in the cyan color. Okay, so that's the basic on the top bar. So hopefully that takes out a little bit of mystery. When you look at this screen and say, what's going on here? That's how you go in and set the widgets that you want to use on your top bar. You just come to use your, let me back up so we can recap real quick. Hit telemetry, and then you want to use your page buttons to move this highlight right here to this icon. And we'll do that by pressing page left. And then you can come down here and hit the top bar setup. And that's how you can control the widgets that go up on top. All right. And then all of these other options, they let you change things like the main color is mine's kind of this burgundy red. The text color, obviously I have mine at black. The main bar and secondary, we covered that. And the background. So we've covered everything here. The only thing I didn't do is select a theme. And if you want to do that, you can simply press on. I don't really want to do it in the demo because it'll mess everything up for colors that I have. So, but if you want to select a different one, you can simply press the jog dial, use that little highlight selector and select it, and it'll change the theme. Okay. Okay. So that's the top bar. I don't see any questions in the chat. So now I will keep going. Oh yeah, yeah, you guys, YouTube, that's a good one. YouTube, due to the pandemic and the heavy use of bandwidth, by default, YouTube has been setting the resolutions down real low. So yeah, I'm putting this out at 1080p, and if YouTube gives it to you by default at 480, that looks pretty terrible. So yeah, so it's a good catch. Make sure you do your resolution and set it up to 1080p. Okay, so the next thing I want to cover are screens. So I mentioned earlier when we first started, I said, look, you can press the page button and go to different screens. So let's talk about screens, and we'll go back in and we'll press the setup button. And on the screen setup, so I have page 1 and page 2. So here's page 2. And then if, let's say, for example, I wanted to add another screen, all you have to do is hit page right and look at the option that you get. See this little plus icon that says add main view. So if I hit that, I have page 3 now. I haven't gone to a limit to see how many you can go. I think it's probably going to stop. There you go, 5. There you go. Now we know it's 5. 5's the answer. That's like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? It's 5. So you can add 5 main screens. And then each of these screens can be configured differently. So let's look at screen number 3 and say, in the case of screen number 3, I want to have a top bar turned off, but I want my sliders and trims on. So that's screen number 3. Let's back out of that and see what that looks like. So this is screen 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So there's my sliders and trims, and I haven't added any other widgets. So I have a very basic screen. Is there a way to show percent rather than volts? Not on the widget, Julie. Not on the not on the widget. You can't do it. I think it's Paul, but not on the widget. No, you can't. Not that's the value is is kind of a defined value. There's no changing that. However, if you look at the screen up here, you kind of can look at this and see a little bit of a percentage. So you can kind of look at that icon and get a feel for the percentage. You know, if I looked at that, I'd say, you know, I'm at least 90%. So, okay. One thing I have to do, and I'm just going to tell you guys right now, when you using this Lua script, there are issues with the way the screen paints. And because of that, all my fonts have turned white. So what I have to do is, I think I have to reset the flight. I'm going to try that right now and see if that repaints my screen colors. Yeah, I think it did. Okay, so this is getting kind of ugly right now. So what I'm going to do now is say that iNav screen that I used, that because that's throwing a monkey wrench and things, I'm going to get rid of it. Let's say I don't want it. So let's go ahead and go down to the screen number 2, which is where I had iNav, and I'm just going to hit remove screen. Okay, now I think you have to long press it. You do. And then let's say that we want to get rid of screen 4. We can long press on that and get rid of it. So now we're down to screens 1, 2, and 3. And here we go. We'll just do a couple of different setups for these. So on screen 1, I want to stick with my original and say, yeah, there's no top bar on screen 1, and we'll leave it at that. So that should get my screen 1 back the way I had it when we started, and it did. Now we'll go back in and say, okay, for screen 2, so now this is our second screen. Let's say we want to have something completely different. Maybe more of a monitor. So in that one, I'm going to leave the widget set up to be full screen, and we'll cover these. Don't worry. I'll show you what these things do. But let's just say for this argument or this use case, we want this to be a big monitor screen. So we'll leave the widget as full, and we'll go down to set up widgets. And in this screen, we'll press the button, and I want to show you one called show all. That's a really neat one if you're trying to understand exactly what's going on your radio. So there is show all, and yeah, let me reset the radio. I should be seeing more stuff. I think I'm missing some text. That's one of those things that iNav Lua script that I see is that you get, it does something goofy with the graphics. I haven't been able to resolve. There you go. That's what I was expecting to see. That's the show all screen. That's the show all screen. So in this screen, this is really kind of a neat troubleshooting screen for basic usage, because if you look on the left, you can see SA, SB, SC, SD. So it tells you the state of all your switches. So notice when I put SA up, let me move this down just a little so you can see. When I put SA up, watch what happens, or I don't have to put it in the mid or down, but watch what happens to the indicator. So I'll put SA mid, and you see how that indicator changed? Now we'll do SA down. So you can use this to kind of get an idea of what your switch states are if you want to. And then there's an output monitor. So if I move my sticks, you can see the aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder are moving. And there's also a flight mode. So if I press the flight mode button, I don't have flight modes defined, but that's where you'd see it. So if I had a 6 position 2 defining flight mode 1, that's where you'd see it. It would show up right there. And then the T's, I think, are timer. Yeah, these are the timers. And then this little guy over here are the logical switch indicators. So you have logical switches. If you do something on your radio that activates logical switch, they'll highlight here. And then check this out. There's a neat little icon or setup text right in the middle called Tx Bat. So you get your battery voltage, your receiver voltage, which is because I have that set up on a widget, and RSSI right there. So this is a really nice kind of like troubleshooting screen, or maybe a pre-flight screen you could look at to make sure everything's where it should be. If say you have a more complex and setup, it's one option you can use to help with overall view of the operating scenario on the radio. Okay, so that's that one. Let's go ahead and go into the third screen. I'm going to leave that troubleshooting screen in place, and now we're going to divide the screen up a little bit. So in this one, notice I've got top bar. So on the second screen, top bar is off. Oh, and by the way, you can turn off trims and sliders too if you don't want them. But in the second screen, the top bar is off. In the first screen, the top bar is off. And in the third screen, we'll leave the top bar on, and I'll do a more conventional layout. So in this one, you notice how the selector kind of scrolls up and down. So we'll scroll up to the top and we press the jog dial once. And what this does is it lets us pick the widget layout on the main screen that we want. And they give you a couple of different predefined options that are actually pretty useful. They're mathematically oriented, right? You can tell this is done by programmers. On my first screen, this is the widget layout that I used. I used this one, and I'll show it to you if you want to see it. But let's just pick a real simple one. This is my kind of standard that I like to use all the time. It's this particular widget layout. I like that one. So I'm going to select that. And then on this widget layout, you have options for top bar, flight mode, sliders, trims. We'll leave all that stuff on. And now I'm going to go into, after I've selected that, you hit escape and you'll get your scroll selection back so you can move down to set up the rest of the options. So the next thing we'll take a look at are we'll set up some widgets. So in this one, this is a blank canvas, and you can see I've got my sliders, I've got my trims and that widget layout and my top bar. Okay, so this is a more conventional layout that I normally use for my planes. And you can do whatever you want. This is just John's way. You can set the beauty of widgets. It's how do you want to do things, okay? So you can do whatever you want here. I'm just going to show you one of the ways that I like to do things. So on this one, I like to see a picture. It's nice to see a big picture of the plane. I like that one. That's a cool picture of my katana. And then I will go to this box and we'll set up a flight timer. So all I've done is move to the box, press the jog dial, and you see this little arrow right here that indicates you're in selection mode. So I'm just going to scroll the wheel to the right and we'll see the options that are available. On that main screen, remember I told you I had flight and battery? This is how I did it. There's a text widget and you can create your own text. That's how I did that. I just put a text widget in and wrote my own text. So I'll keep scrolling and there's timer. Okay, so that's a flight timer. Let's activate that one. And then notice that under timer source, you can press the jog dial again and select up to all three of the timers. So timer 1, timer 2, timer 3. So I'll pick timer 1 because that one's defined. And then I'll hit return, and that's that for that one. And we'll go down here to this last box and we'll pick something else. We can do the monitor would be a good one. That's not bad for this type of screen. Although the funny thing about it is when you're flying, I personally, I don't even look at that. You know, when I'm flying, I don't really look at that monitor. That's good for ground stuff. So on this one, you know, flight timer, if you have a count up timer, you might want to put it there. Let's see. Battery, counter, ghost, iNav won't fit in there. It's too small. Show all is too small. And there is a big timer. So if you wanted to do a second timer, say a different format, you could use that one. And let's just go ahead and pick it. And we'll change the colors because yellow is too much for me. So I'll leave it, we'll just make it red. I'll turn the green and blue off. We'll just make it red. Okay, and then notice that if you hit escape, you can hit this timer 1 or timer 2 or timer 3. So you can pick which timer you want to see. So we'll just leave timer 1 because there's actually something there to see. And there you go, big red letters. And I'll activate that timer. Well, in theory, I'll activate that timer. I have my timer source. I don't know why that's not going. Everything here says that should go. That's why. I have my reset set. I have my timer reset activated. Dumb move. But there you go. There's the flight timer. And there you go. That's another widget layout. Now let's go back into that screen and take a look at the other options. So we'll do setup widgets again. And let's say that on this one, we want to get rid of that. We'll just click on that and we'll do select widget. And we'll keep scrolling. Value, that's the first one. We got the battery voltage. This bat check, I haven't figured this out. If you know what the bat check is, let me know in comments because I've messed with this a couple times and I have yet to figure out what that one's for. Not sure. The counter is also kind of weird because that's not seconds. And I'm not sure what the purpose of that one is. I just don't really understand it. Ghost is a new one that they added if you have the Ghost receiver, so you get some information from Ghost on that one. iNav is because I have that installed, show all, and the big timer. That's it. So those are your widgets. And remember under value, that one's kind of kind of odd, but if you go under value, you can select just about any source that you've got. So if you decided you wanted to see volume, I've never tried volume actually, let's try it. And I have to change the color because otherwise it'll blend right in. So let's change the color. I don't know, we'll try red. Oh yeah, green, there we go. How about that? We'll use green. All right, so let's see, volume. Let's see if that works. So yeah, look at, there you go. There's your volume. So all I'm doing to change my volume is I use my volume knob. That's a really terrible color though, isn't it? I'm sure you guys can't see that at all. Let's change it. See, this is what's nice about the options for changing things. You can go in and say, no, that didn't work. Let's change it. There we go. That should be a lot more visible. So volume, yeah, that works. Kind of cool. So you can, the point is that you can use these widget sources to set your widgets however you want them. It's whatever makes you happy. That's all that matters. Okay. So that's it. That's it. And let me go back one more time and show you real quick. If you did something you don't like and you want to get rid of it, let's say that you got that show all screen and you say that thing is terrible. I want to get rid of that. You can go in and hit remove screen and it's gone. So feel free, you know, get in and play with it. You can't hurt it. That's the point. You can't hurt it. So now I'm back down to 2. I've got my one with my volume display and my flight timer set up and my airplane and my trims and sliders and my top bar all there. And then I've got my other one that's just the pretty one that just shows my flight timer, battery, and a picture of the airplane. So maybe a pre-flight kind of screen. So there you go. That's what I wanted to talk about on widgets. I think that was the main run through, just to give you a look at the basic functionality, how to manage widget screens, how to add that battery voltage, because man, everybody asks about this one, the battery voltage. That's like the literal #1 question I get on widgets. How do you do that? And obviously the reason is because it's a little obscured. So Richard, I appreciate you doing the like whip duties. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like button, that's awesome. That'd be great. Very helpful if you hit like, because interactions with videos help with placement. So when we do these, that's why YouTubers always ask you guys, please hit the like button, because when you interact with the video, that tells YouTube that, hey, this is a good video, and they'll put it in front of more people, which helps us get views. You know, that's kind of what we're after. So with that done, I think we've covered all the basics. I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask if there's anything that you'd like to see, or anything I could walk through or show you. If you want to see anything that I've done on my models before that you've wondered, how the heck did he do that? I'd be happy to walk through that. So while you guys are thinking about it, I'm going to scroll back and check the questions. And boy, it's a quiet chat today. A lot of Europeans today, you guys aren't talking you're not very talkative today from Europe. I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot. Let's see. I wanted to we covered that one. Is there a way to show percent rather than volts? I'll take a look just to verify, since I'm waiting anyway, but let's go ahead and take a look real quick just to verify, but I really don't think there are. All right. So we'll do setup widgets. Hey, one thing I'll tell you too, by the way, if you change your widget layout, it will blow up whatever widget you had. So if you don't want to do that, be careful changing the widget layout, because if you do that, they're all gone. You got to start over. So let's see, battery. The question was battery. That's not on this screen. That's going to be on this one. And that actually, no, it's going to be on the top bar. That's where that's going to be. Top bar. Oh, I know what happened. We're back to square one. I turned off my top bar. In order to get the top bar and edit it, you have to turn it on for your main screen. Okay, that's not a bug. That's just the way it is. Okay, so the question was, is there a way to set battery percentage? The only way you would be able to do it is by long pressing and going to widget settings. And here are the options you have for widget settings. That's the source, the color, and the shadow. We can look and see if there's a battery percentage source, just out of curiosity. Timer 3, TRSS, link quality, RxBat plus minus. No, I don't see it. I don't see it. The only option there is just bat, no percentage. So by the way, if you're interested in things like on this particular receiver, this has link quality. So I can put TQLY in there as an option too, if you want to monitor that type of thing. So there's my link quality for this radio. And I'll see if I can, yeah, see, just putting my hand, all I did was put my hand over the radio antenna, and that kind of blocked it a little bit. There we go. There's a little bit of metal in the way. So you can see that drop down to 72, and I just put my phone in front of the antenna. So yeah, that works. All right. I love your telemetry screen. Could you just briefly touch on how you would set that up? Sure. Yeah, Pete, let's do that. So let's do that from scratch. Actually, it's very easy to do. So the telemetry screen, you're talking about this one? Is that the screen you're talking about? And what I'll do, I'm gonna get this thing to stop beeping at me. What I'll do is I'll go in and we'll add a new screen. And when you add a new screen by default, if you press escape, well, this is screen 3. That's what the default screen looks like. So you said, I love your telemetry screen. Could you just briefly touch on it? I think you're probably talking about my first screen. So if you start with a default screen, you hit the telemetry button. The first thing that I did was turn off the top bar, and I turned off the flight. Well, no, I left flight mode on, and then I turned off sliders and trim. So when you do that, it's going to be very simplistic. All right. It's going to be, what are you doing to me here? Oh, that was my main one. Let's stick with page 3. So turn off top bar, turn off sliders and trims, and there we go. So that's a blank canvas. The one with the, the one with the horizon, that was iNav. Yeah, I can show you how to do that. So real quick, while I'm on the subject, if you want to start with a blank screen, that's how you do it. Press the telemetry button, pick the screen you want to work with, and just turn everything off and set the main canvas to be just one widget, and you're left with a blank screen. That's what you get. And you could even do something fun in here too, by the way. You could do something fun in here and say set up widgets, and then click on the box and then click, let's see, we could do I think I passed text. There, text. And then in here, you can go under widget settings, and there's limits. So you can do, let's see, I wanted to long press that one. RCVR. And then for the text size, you can go in and the option is standard or tiny or small, mid, or double. And unfortunately, there's no alignment options. That would have been cool if they let you align that. So on that one, all I've got is a screen that says RCVR, but that's how you do a text label. Okay. So iNav, let's talk about iNav. That's a good question, Pete. So the way iNav, and I do have a video on the full iNav thing, but I'll show you the way that works real quick. You have to go get the iNav Lua script, and if you Google iNav Lua script, you'll find the iNav Lua script very easy with instructions on how to install it. You basically drop it in the tools folder. I believe it's the tools folder, although I'd probably have to go back and look at my own. Might be scripts. Is it scripts? Telemetry. And then iNav. So that's where it goes. So you put it in there. You put that script in that folder. You just drop it in there. Okay. And then once you've dropped it in there, the next thing you have to do is create a telemetry screen that's blank. So I'm going to remove this thing. We'll remove that, and we're just going to create an iNav telemetry screen. So the way we'll do that is press page right. We'll press on the plus sign to add a blank screen. And the key for the iNav widget to work is it needs the entire canvas. And we just covered that just a moment ago. So I'll use the one single widget. We'll turn everything off. It's got to have top bar off, sliders and trim off. Everything's off. Okay. Now with everything off, the next thing we'll do is hit set up widgets. And then we're going to scroll, or click first and then scroll. And then when you scroll through, what'll happen, because iNav is in that particular folder, it represents itself as a widget. So you can see I just skipped over it. There it is. There's the Lua telemetry widget. That's all I did to get there. And now I just simply hit return and return and return and return. And oh, I messed up. You got to hit, I do that all the time on this thing. You have to hit enter on that setup. So sorry about that. Let's do it again. So go back to the iNav widget. Instead of hitting return here in order to get this to work, see how that's highlighted right there? You have to press the jog dial again. And now it's selected. Now I can hit return and return and return. There you go. It's there. So keep hitting return and you're back out to your main screen, and you can toggle. This is just now a screen. It's a widget on the screen, but it's just a screen. And now you can press the page right button and you can navigate through your screens and back to your Lua telemetry widget. So there you go. And now, of course, you need iNav telemetry feeding you data in order for this to work, which I don't have right now. I don't have a iNav computer sending me data, so this doesn't work. But if I did have an iNav aircraft turned on, this stuff all works, and it all works. You know, funny story about this. If you don't know, I've been doing long range FPV for a very long time. And years ago on Tyrannus, I wrote a Lua script that did this. It wasn't this elegant, but my Lua script was designed to give me the critical elements that I needed, including distance from home, altitude, airspeed. I wrote a script very similar to this. It just wasn't this elegant. This is really nice. This is really nice with all the graphic representation, and the attitude indicator is genius, and the compass and all the upgraded graphics and the bars, all very good stuff. So the guy who wrote this script, I think he actually weighed in on my Lua script install. He said, hey, thanks for showing my script. He's a very clever programmer. I can tell you I've done a little bit of work in Lua. Not for me. It's complicated. It works. Obviously it works, but it's not for me. It's not my bag. So Andre Van Dorp, hello from Holland. And then Kay Anthony, hello from Great Britain. Vance is from Canada. Yeah, got a lot of outside the US folks. I know Paul is from Australia, so very good. As usual, very informative and succinct. Thanks, John. Paul, yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, listen, I don't see any questions, and I've covered everything I intended to cover with you in terms of widgets, so I don't see any point in dragging this on. That's my OpenTx review on setting up widgets. I hope you found the information useful, and you can use this as a reference if you get stuck on something. And then if you know people asking questions about widgets, feel free to direct them this way. Let them know about this video and let them check it out. And if you know new people getting involved with OpenTx, of course, this is a good one to kind of give them a walkthrough on widgets as well. So I do appreciate everybody joining and hanging out with me. Definitely would appreciate a thumbs up if you found this information helpful and useful. Please hit that thumbs up button on the way out the door. That's all I've got for today. Oh, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. That's always good too. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for joining. Take it easy.